Okay, good evening, everyone. We are now live on Facebook. We have people on Zoom, men and women, ladies and gentlemen. Nice to have you tonight. And welcome also to everybody on TorahAnytime.com. Thank you, Torah Anytime, for hosting tonight's share. And as always, for quality Torah content, TorahAnytime.com should be your go-to place. That should be your place where you should be looking for that kind of content. Okay. Tonight, Pashas Beshalch, I'd like to share with you a few interesting ideas that I saw, different ideas from different people. So we're going to start with the following. When Parah sent out the people and they didn't allow them to go through Eretz Plishtim, so rather the Jewish people went through around Derech HaMidbar Yamsuf through the Sea of Reeds. And then on page 366, verse 19, Vayikach Moshe Atzmos Yosef Imar. Moshe Rabbeinu took the bones of Yosef with him. He made a promise. Yosef made Bnei Yisrael a promise. God will come and surely will redeem you. He will remember you. And you will take my remains from here with you. So Moshe Rabbeinu goes and he gets the remains of Yosef. And it says, the Medrash tells us, Chacham Lev Yikach Mitzvahs, that a person who is wise of heart, he will try to do mitzvahs. What is a person who is wise of heart? How do we understand that? So explains the Medrash that there were two mitzvahs to be done at this point. If you remember last week, we spoke about the reparations and we spoke about the Jewish people going and getting themselves things that they should be able to they should be able to get gold and silver from the Egyptians. God had commanded them, I ask you to please go out and to get gold and silver from the Egyptians so that I can keep my promise to Avraham Avinu. On top of that, there was another promise that they had made. They had made a promise to, excuse me, they'd made a promise to Yosef and with it also to all their forefathers, Reuben, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, etc., that they will take them out of Egypt. When the Jewish people leave Egypt, they will also take the remains of all of the Shevatim with them. So Moshe Rabbeinu is the Chacham Lev. He's the wise of heart because Yikach Mitzvahs, he goes and he takes the mitzvah of taking out the bones of Yosef HaTzadik. And therefore the question is, if there are two mitzvahs to be done at that point, there's a mitzvah of taking out the bones and there's a mitzvah of getting money, why is Moshe Rabbeinu considered the Chacham Lev or Yikach Mitzvahs, the clever individual that goes and gets mitzvahs? Everybody was getting mitzvahs. The people that were going to get money were getting mitzvahs at that time as well. So everybody was involved in the case of a mitzvah. So there are really two answers. The first answer, I think, is the answer that we've given already in the past. And the answer is as follows. When it comes to giving or doing mitzvahs, there are some mitzvahs that we would call the more popular mitzvahs, and there's some mitzvahs that are not as popular, right? So, for example, inviting people. There are certain people that are very popular to invite. So you want to do achnasas archim. There's somebody that's just recently moved to town that still needs some help. The individual is very charismatic. He's got a nice family. Everything's good about that person. So everybody likes to invite that kind of person to the house. And then you have somebody else that might not be such a catch. That might be either socially awkward or might not really take care of themselves so well, etc., etc. The Chacham Lev, the wise of heart, Yikach Mitzvos, will be the one that invites not the person that is so easy to invite, because that guy is easy to invite. Everybody can invite someone like that. The Chacham Lev, Yikach Mitzvos, will do the mitzvah that's harder, to invite the person that is not as easy to invite. That is somebody, the wise person, Yikach Mitzvahs, will invite the person that is more difficult to invite, because that is, the difficult mitzvahs, that's the less sought after mitzvah. So that was one answer that we gave previously. But the other answer also is understanding your role and understanding what you can do and what you can bring to the table is really, really important. So Rav Schwab says the following. He says, Chacham levikach mitzvahs, that you have to understand that there are certain people that don't realize that what they have is very unique. Some people realize that they have unique talents and they use those unique talents, and some people don't really use the unique talents. And if you don't use your unique talents, then those talents are lost, because if there are other people that can do what you can do, so big deal. So I didn't do it. But if there's nobody else that can really do what you're doing, and you're the only person that has that unique talent that can bring that out and that can make that difference, it would be a shame for you to leave that behind. It would be a shame for you to say, no, you don't have to. I remember many years ago, I had a disagreement. I had an argument with a specific individual, and I went to speak. Sorry, pardon me. After that, I went to speak to some very great rabbonim to ask them the question. Because what happened at the time was as follows. Somebody came to me and said, listen, you speak German fluently. You were raised in Vienna. They are in need of more German-speaking rabbonim. Baruch Hashem, there are many, many English-speaking rabbis. Some would even venture to say too many English-speaking rabbis. And therefore, if you have a unique talent of being able to foster people's Judaism in a language where other people cannot really do it, you won't walk into yeshiva and find thousands and thousands of students that can speak in German, that can inspire people in German. Whereas you will find thousands of people that can speak in English, can inspire people by speaking in English. So why are you wasting that talent that you have by ministering, by being a rabbi to an English-speaking flock? Why don't you go and find yourself a pulpit, help your father out in Vienna, or find yourself another pulpit in another German-speaking place? And this way you'll be using a unique talent that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given you. You'll be using that in the best way, rather than wasting that talent. Now, I remember we had a lot of conversations about it, and I remember going to speak to some very great people in Yerushalayim, the Rosh Hashiva of Mir, Rav Nosson Tzvi Finkel Zatzal, Rav Yitzchak Berkowitz, Shlita, Yahavna Ben Chaim L'Chaim. So I went to speak to both of them about this conundrum that I face. Do I need to use that talent? So in this instance specifically, they told me, no, you don't have to feel that you have to use that specific talent in this way. You could use your talent even for the English-speaking crowd. Not only that, Rav Yitzchak Berkowitz actually said to me, which has been Rav Yitzchak Berkowitz, I think this has been his mantra all along for so many other things. Hi, good evening, Malcolm. The mantra that Rav Yitzchak Berkowitz has is, where are you going to be marba the most kavod shemayim? Meaning, where are you going to have the greatest impact on Jews? Where are you going to be able to reach out to as many Jews as possible? If you can reach out to as many Jews as possible in English, then you should be giving your drashas, and then you should be becoming a rabbi in England and doing as much as you can over there. If you can reach more people in German, then that is where you should be looking. You shouldn't be looking at the talent necessarily or specifically that talent. Rather, you should be looking at the greater good of Klal Yisrael. Where can you make the biggest difference? And that's where you need to go. And Moshe Rabbeinu is also looking at exactly that. Where can I make the biggest difference? Can I go and get money like everybody else? Sure, I can go get money like everybody else. Would I be doing a mitzvah by getting money like everybody else would? Yes, Moshe Rabbeinu would also get the mitzvah, because the HaKadosh Baruch Hu had said, tell Bnei Yisrael they should go and they should ask them for klei chesed and klei zov. Go ask for golden vessels. Go ask for silver vessels. Speak to the Egyptians and tell them they need to stop you on. They need to give you as much as they can. So Moshe Rabbeinu could have done that mitzvah. But who would have done his mitzvah if he didn't do the mitzvah? Who else would have had the ability to do the mitzvah of getting the remains of Yosef? The remains of Yosef were hidden. They were hidden by the sorcerers of Paro in the Nile, and they were sunk in a specific way. And the only person that was able to get those remains out of Egypt was Moshe Rabbeinu. So Moshe Rabbeinu says, money, everybody can get money. It doesn't take much of a great chacham to be able to go over to the Egyptians and to ask them for money. But the remains of Yosef and the remains of the other Shvatim, if I want to be able to get those out of Egypt, I'm going to have to work hard. It's not going to be so easy for me to be able to do that. And nobody else other than myself can do that. So what? I'm going to hand over that job to someone else who cannot do it, and I'm going to go get money. So the Medrash says, Chacham Lev Yikach Mitzvahs. Moshe Rabbeinu is a Chacham Lev. He gets the mitzvah, that one mitzvah that nobody else can do, Moshe Rabbeinu did. Don't always look for the mitzvah that everybody else can do. If there's a specific mitzvah to you, something that you can do, as we said, where you have a special talent, or you've been handed a specific situation that gives you a mitzvah that nobody else has, then you're chacham leiv. If you do that mitzvah, if you grab hold of that mitzvah and ensure that you don't let go of it, that's the chacham leiv yikach mitzvahs that we discuss over here about Moshe Rabbeinu. So that is the first idea that I wanted to share with you over here about the Parshas Beshalach. We now move on to the next page. We're on page 368 in the Art School Chumashim, Parak Yudalet, chapter 14. And now HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Moshe Rabbeinu, you should come back, move back between the sea and the Egyptians. And V'ama Para Livnei Yisrael, Para will say about the Jewish people, Nevuchim Hem Ha'asagalam Midbar. They are in prison in the land. The wilderness had locked them in. They're confused. They don't know where to go. And then I will strengthen Paro's hand and he will come running after you. And then I will become honored. I'll be glorified through Para and Mitzrayim. And everybody will know that I am God by Yasuchain. And that's what the Jewish people did. And then Melech Mitzrayim found out that the people ran away. So then they changed their mind and says, what did we do? We sent B'nai Yisrael. And then the pasuk says, "Vayesar es richbo." Paro himself harnessed his chariot, and his nation he took with him. And here we see a very interesting thing, that instead of getting somebody else to harness his chariot, Paro harnessed his own chariot. Vayesar es richbo. So it's brought over here by Rav Zalman Sorotskin that there's a bit of a poetic justice that's going on over here, and maybe even going full circle in something in a specific way. If you remember 3 weeks ago when we were reading Pasha Shemos, we read the following. We have the Jewish people are living in Egypt. They're having a very nice existence over there. And suddenly the Egyptians turn on them and think that they're going to create trouble in the land. Let's be clever. Maybe they become too many. There will be a war, and they will join our enemies, and they will war against us, and they will leave the land. And so therefore, they appointed taskmasters in order to afflict them with their burdens. And they build storage cities for Paris. That is what we have over here. So this is on page 292, 294 in the Art School Chumashim. And the Medrash tells us something very interesting. The Medrash tells us, do you know what happened on the first day when it came to working? The Jewish people were just sitting around, everybody's sitting around doing their own thing. And suddenly they hear ye, we need to build storage cities for Pharaoh. Anybody who would like to come and would like to get paid for the work to be done, please join us in such and such a place at such and such a time. And the Jewish people and some of the non-Jewish people, everybody came to see what was going to happen over there. What's going on? They're building these great cities, these great storage houses. And suddenly there's a hush that comes over the crowd, and they look, and the king himself has showed up. And the king himself starts picking up some of the bricks and laying the first brick and laying the second brick. And he turns around to the crowd of people, Para, and he says to them, my dear countrymen, I am here now to do this for you. I am trying to create these storage houses so that we can keep our wheat safe and secure. And I am with you in this. I also want to do something, and I also want to build them. And I'm going to help you build them. And the first day or two or three, the first person to build any of this was Paro. He shows up and he builds it. And the Jewish people said, well, if the king himself is building over here, this is a great project. This is a project that we as Jewish people want to be involved in. Jewish people, I think, in general, have always been very patriotic people. They've always been people that, whatever nation they are in general, they try to help out that nation, unless the host nation is really, really sort of horrible to them. So in Poland, maybe, or in Ukraine or Russia, maybe they weren't so enamored with all the people over there. But when they lived in Germany and they were let out of the ghetto, as soon as they were let out of the ghetto, the Jewish people were involved in almost anything they could be involved in. They were involved in the universities, and they were teaching, and they were machers, and they were bankers, and they were lawyers, and they were doctors. They were doing all the stuff they wanted to do. The Jewish people in general, if they become part of a society, they become a very active part of society. And so now what's happened is as follows. They see Paro, and Paro is working very hard, and he's starting to build this, and they say, whoa, we need to be involved in this. We need to help out. This is a special project that is being done now by Egypt. And we as Jewish people who have always been involved in these kind of things, always been the first in line to do this, we need to get involved over here, and we need to also help out. And the Jewish people started helping out, and the Egyptians started helping out. And at one point or another, Paro starts to slink away. He says, look, I don't have to stand here building all day long. I am the king. I need to go back and do my things. And then more and more of the Egyptians slink away, and the Jewish people are still working very hard while the Egyptians have all slunk away. And at one point or another, one of the Jews starts to take a break, and suddenly he gets whipped. He goes, hey, why are you whipping me? What just happened? He says, get back to work, Jew. He says, this is voluntary. Not anymore. He says, but Pharaoh was just here and he said it was voluntary. Yeah, he's left now. Now it's not voluntary anymore. Now you need to work. Now they're taskmasters. And if you don't do the work that we're asking you to do, we're going to kill you, and we're going to whip you, and we're going to beat you. So, all right, so the Jewish people got stuck. Now they're busy working. Now they're busy under slave conditions as slave labor, working for the Mitzrayim, working for the Egyptians. So now you have the following situation. You have the Jewish people enslaved, and the slavery that happened to the Jewish people is a result of the fact that Paro was the first one who stood up and did something. Paro stood up, and Paro says, I am also going to help you build the cities. I am also involved in this. Even the king is going to do something. And now when it comes to annihilating the Jewish people, Paro does the same thing again. Vayeser es richbo, says Rav Zalman Sorotzkin. Paro himself saddled up his chariot, and the people he took with him, he got them into it. Imo, he says, is different to Ito. Imo means that they were all together in this with the same idea, with the same enthusiasm. Ito means they got schlepped along, but Ima means they had this idea. Pharaoh roused the crowds. Pharaoh was the one that got everybody to say, yes, we're going to do this. Yes, we're going to attack these people, the Jewish people. Yes, we're going to make sure that we're going to drown all of them. So that's now what Paro's idea is. Paro saddles his own horse. And you can imagine the king saddling his own chariot. Since when does a king saddle his own chariot? You send your advisors, you send your ministers ahead to do it for you. Why should a king do such a thing? And Paro now says, look, guys, I saddled my own chariot. I'm the first one that did it. Come on, saddle up. We're running after those Jews. And that's exactly what happens. They start to run after those Jews. They start to chase them. And then what happens is the Jewish people make their way into the Yam Suf, the Sea of Reeds. The Egyptians follow after them, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes the sea and makes the sea go around them and surround them and drown all of the Egyptians as the Jewish people come out on the other side. And he said, here is the poetic justice, but here's also the idea that Pharaoh created this for himself, and it comes full circle. Pharaoh is the one that enslaves the Jewish people by being the first person to move forward and to carry the first brick and to say, I am willing to work over here. I, the king, am going to work over here. So all the Jews say, the king's going to work over here. We're going to work over here as well. Pharaoh is the one that brings down his people as well. In the same way he was the one that caused the enslavement, he was the one that caused the death of everybody else. By what? Again, by being the first person. By being the person who steps forward and says, I am the one that's going to saddle up my own chariot. I'm riding. Who's with me? And if everybody sees even the king's willing to do it, if the king's willing to step forward, he's willing to do it. Who's with me? I'm with you. I'm coming. I'm ready to go. And everybody else does the same thing. And then that's exactly what happened. And then they go. So this is really the full circle that's being described over here by Zalman Sorotzkin. It starts off with Paro being the first, and it ends the same way with Paro being the first. Okay. So now we get to another juncture over here, which is something that we have spoken about in the past as well. A very important thing. And that is Moshe Rabbeinu is standing now by the river, and the Jewish people are saying to him, what are there no graves in Egypt? You've taken us to die in the desert. What are you doing? We told you should leave us in Egypt. And Moshe Rabbeinu says, I don't know what to do. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this whole thing. And the Moshe Rabbeinu starts davening to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Vayom Hashem el Moshe, Hashem says to Moshe, Ma titzach elai. Why are you screaming to me? Daber b'nei Yisrael, so why don't you speak to the Jewish people? So and let them travel straight through the sea. And you need to raise up your stick and stretch out your hand on the sea, and it will split, and the Jewish people will go through it in the dry land in the middle of the sea. That's what God tells Moshe Rabbeinu. And many of the Mefarshim, as we've discussed in the past, are bothered by the question of Ma titzak elai. Ma titzak elai means, why are you screaming to me? Why are you calling on me? Just go. And the question they all ask is, well, who else am I supposed to scream to? What was HaKadosh Baruch Hu expecting from Moshe Rabbeinu over here? Moshe Rabbeinu is in a pickle. Moshe Rabbeinu is looking forward and he sees a sea in front of him. He's looking backwards and he sees a chasing nation of Egyptians with all their chariots, with all the weapons, chasing after the Jewish people. And the Jewish people are going through a pandemonium. They're having a freak attack. And they say, Moshe Rabbeinu, what are we going to do? And Moshe Rabbeinu goes, I don't know. God, help us. And God says, what are you screaming to me for? Well, what else do you want him to do? Isn't tefillah a good thing? Isn't davening a good thing? Why is God saying, Ma titzak elai? Why are you screaming to me? What else do you want me to do? God says, yeah, just go. But tefillah is an important part of this. So Rashi says, actually, Rashi says, it teaches us, this is page 370, verse 15, Yud Dalet Tezvav, and the Rashi is Matitzak Elai. Lamadnu, we learn that Moshe Rabbeinu Omen Mismali was standing in his davening. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to him, Lo Eish La'at Lahach B'Tvilah Shisuan Nusum Atzara. At the moment, it's not a time to go ahead and to daven a lengthy davening. Now you're davening along Shemona Esrei. Move it. Get moving. Okay. That's what Rashi says. So Rashi says, now it's not the time to daven long davening. And again, the question is, why not? Why is now not the time to daven a lengthy davening? So in the past, the answer that we've given is that, at this, sometimes it's a time for davening, but sometimes it's not so much a time for davening. The Jewish people are in terrible tzaras, and davening at this point, a long davening, you just have to go to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and you have to say, let's go. But what, especially because a lengthy davening versus a short davening doesn't really make a difference to God. God heard you the first time. I didn't have to say it 16 times. Okay? However, there is another point that's brought over here by Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky. And Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky writes in the Sefer Emes LeYaakov, when he says, Ma titzak elai, why are you screaming to me? He says, because at this point, there was a test for the Jewish people of their faith. Meaning to say, if you look back to page 368, which he said before. So he said, Vaydab Hashem Moshe Lema, verse 1, Yud Daled Aleph. Hashem says to Moshe, saying, Daber b'nei Yisrael, tell the Jewish people that they should go back and they should encamp between the sea and between the Mitzrayim. And Paro, I'm telling you now, he's telling the Jewish people the game plan. Says, guys, what exactly is going to happen now is we're going to go back over here. They're going to think we're stuck over here. So they're going to come chasing after us. And God's going to deal a tremendous blow to them. Are you ready? And they're like, yes, we're ready. Okay, let's make our way back. So what they do is they make their way back and they put themselves in a very precarious situation. The Jewish people knew exactly what they were getting themselves into. They knew beforehand. It's not like, oh my God, Moshe Rabbeinu, you suddenly took us the wrong way. We took a wrong turn. Moshe Rabbeinu told them beforehand, guys, we're going to go back to the sea and we're going to confuse the Egyptians so that they come running after you so that God can make do with them once and forever. So Moshe Rabbeinu says, and they say, okay, Moshe, that's what we're going to do. So they know the game plan. And they had bitachon then. They had a tremendous amount of trust in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It took a lot of trust to do that. If I were to say to you guys, let's all get together, we're going to go down to Moss Side to find the most dangerous part here in Manchester. We're going to hang out on Moss Side on the street that belongs to the most dangerous gang and sit there and start smoking and just waiting for them to come and to attack us. And just as they're ready to attack us, the police is going to come swooping down in their helicopters, catch all of the gang and arrest them. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't feel comfortable with that plan. I wouldn't feel comfortable going down to Moss Side and waiting for the most violent gang to come and attack me. And yet the Jewish people are told the exact same thing. Make your way back into the dangerous part of between the sea and the Egyptians, wait for the Egyptians to come, and when they come, God will take care of them. So Jews had bitachon. The Jews believed in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They said, okay, God, this is what you're telling us we're going to do. This is what you're telling us is going to happen. No problem. And now when they see the Egyptians, they freak out. Because that's probably what would happen also. Even if you could convince me to go down to more side, and even if I'm standing on the street corner, when that gang starts to come out, hey, mate, what are you doing here? I don't know about you, but I'd be shaking. I'd really be shaking because, like, these are violent criminals. These aren't people that you want to play with. These are terrible people. So it's a very, very dangerous situation to be in. So now what do I do? And suddenly they swoop in. But what happens is Moshe Rabbeinu says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Moshe Rabbeinu, if you're standing there and you're davening and you're davening and you're davening, what you're going to do is you're going to ruin their bitachon, you're going to ruin their trust in me. Because God said mitchilasa, God said from the outset, I am going to save you. What's going to happen over here is you're going to go back over there. It's going to look like you're stuck. And then when everything looks lost, I'm going to save you. Now, Moshe Rabbeinu is standing there and he's davening and he's davening and he's davening and he's davening. And at one point or another, you're going to be like, this is not a good sign. This means that Moshe Rabbeinu is davening so hard, our plan has failed. It's gone down. I remember my wife telling me that when she was a SEM girl in Gateshead, so they went to eat by a friend of hers' families. So they went to the family, and after the meal, the rule was, especially then in Gateshead, they used to have a lot of very, very rough people living in that area in Bensham. And so what you'd have to do is the father, the balabais, would have to walk those seminary girls back to their seminary because it wasn't safe for them to be walking on their own on the street. And my wife told me, we had this big fellow who was walking with us. He was a, very choshev rav, tall, imposing fellow. And she says, I felt very, very safe until I looked at him and I saw he was mouthing Tehillim the whole way. And when I'm walking with a guy who's supposed to be protecting me and he's davening the whole way, you're like, uh-oh, what's going to happen? If some of these yabbas show up, what's going to end up happening is he's going to go running and we'll be stuck over here. This guy's also davening. This guy's also scared out of his wits. So what chance do we stand? And that was the problem. That was the issue over here. When the Jewish people look at Moshe Rabbeinu is davening and davening and davening. They're like, I know he promised us that this is going to work out okay, but judging by the amount that he's davening, it looks like he's not really confident in this plan either. It looks like he thinks this plan has failed as well. And so HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Matitzak Elai, at the moment, you cannot stand here davening lengthy davenings, because the more you daven, the more you give the impression to the Jewish people that you don't have the situation in hand, that everything is lost, that you're davening God saying, God, help us. I don't know what in the world to do over here. And therefore, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu to Moshe Rabbeinu, stop davening. Right now is not the right time to daven, because what you're doing is you're ruining people's belief in me and belief in you. Normally, yes, of course, davening is very much warranted. In this instance, it's pulling people away from me. It's not bringing them closer. One last idea that I saw tonight. This was brought in the Sefer Mizikanim Esbon, and I can't remember the Sefer that he quotes it in the name, but he quotes the Medrash. He says the Medrash says that when they were standing in front of that sea and they're looking back and they see the Egyptians chasing after them, and they're looking forward and they see the sea, and they think that, what are we going to do? He says the Jewish people split into 4 factions. He says there were factions that were willing to give up. They said, forget it, we're just going to die. There were a faction that said, let's go back to Egypt, let's surrender to them. There was a faction that said, let's start a battle and let's start a war with them. And there's a faction that started screaming. And he says that if you look throughout history, you will find that those 4 factions existed almost every single time the Jewish people got into trouble. And he qualifies in the following way. There was the first faction that were the defeatists. There are certain people, as soon as something goes wrong, they say, see, it's all gone wrong. No chance, no choice. We're all going to die. This is it. It was nice while it lasted. There have always been the people that have the worst case scenario in their head. And so therefore, this is the first set of Jews. The first set of Jews are standing by this point. They're looking around and they're saying, We don't stand a chance. We're all going to die. We're certainly going to die. How terrible, how tragic, whatever you want to call it. We don't know what to do with ourselves. That's the first set of people. They don't believe that God's going to save them. They truly believe that they are about to die. That's number one. Number two, and we're going to go back to Egypt. This is the set of people that say, you know what? Instead of standing up to our host culture, what we're going to do instead is we are going to give up. We're going to surrender to them, and we're going to become part of them. We'll intermarry, we'll become part of their nation, and that's the only way that we're actually going to survive as a people. We are going to survive because we're going to have given up our own identity and becoming part of their identity. The third ones are the ones that decide we're going to fight. We're going to do it through battle, and we're going to fight whoever it is. I don't care who it is. We're going to fight them. We're going to battle against them, etc., etc. And the last set of people are the ones that scream. Is oftentimes when you scream out, you'll see this throughout Jewish history. The Jews screamed to other nations and said, come and help us. So they made alliances with different people. Over the years, there were alliances with Syria or Assyria, and there was alliances with Egypt, and there were alliances with Babel. There were alliances with different countries. Sometimes these alliances worked, but more often than not, at one point or another, the alliance backfired, and the people that they thought were going to actually be there to help them stabbed them in the back. And so now we have these four sets of people that throughout history we've had again and again. You have the defeatists that just throw in the towel. You have the people that say, let's just become part of the host nation and assimilate. You have the people that are in for war, and you have the people that are looking for diplomatic ways out. And here he says, the Pasuk says, Vayama Moshe La'am, Moshe says to the people, this is Pasuk Yud Gimel, 370, Yud Gimel, 14:13. Vayama Moshe La'am, Moshe says to people, Al Tiro, number one, don't be afraid. That's the first thing. Don't be afraid of the other people. Don't be defeatist. His yatzvu, stand straight. Don't go over to the other side. Uru'es Yeshuas Hashem asher yaseh lechem hayom. Excuse me. And see the tremendous Yeshua, the tremendous salvation that God is going to make for you today. It's not going to be your war. It's not going to be your battle. What you see the Egyptians today, you'll never see them again. It's not going to be your war. It's not going to be a war that other people are going to fight for you. It's the war that God is going to fight for you. And I think throughout history, there have been these four sets of people. And what we see over here in the first conflict, and again, we need to keep that in mind, that rather than looking to other people to help us, rather than assimilating, rather than fighting, and rather than being defeatist and giving up, we have to look towards God to save us. And instead of thinking that one of those four things are going to help us, in the end of the day, to get out of this bit of Golus, the only way, the one and only way is Hisyatsu, to stand back, or Uas Yeshuas Hashem, to see the salvation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which He will do for us in Yetz Hashem, hopefully very soon. May it come speedily in our days. Amen. So thank you very much that joined us tonight. For those who joined us on Facebook Live, thank you for those who joined us via TorahAnytime.com, or for those who joined us on Zoom. If you want to get in touch with me, it's davideisenberg@gmail.com. Look forward to hearing from you if you have any questions. And in Yetz Hashem, we look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Richard, so nice to see you.
Likewise.
You asked me for the Zoom details some time ago. There's been some time since we've seen you, but now we get to see you. It's great to see you.
Likewise.